difficult as presentations are, remote presentations and web conferences bring even bigger challenges. You might be separated from your audience by time zones, telephones, technology. You can't make eye contact. You can't read the room. And you have to compete with countless distractions from email and instant messages. You need even more effective presentation skills in order to get your point across. It starts with the reason why you give a presentation, any presentation. No matter what kind of presentation you're giving, your goal is to persuade people. You're convincing people to pay attention to what you're telling them and to act on that information. You want people to make a decision or take an action. Persuading people, influencing people, those are a lot harder when you're not face-to-face. In a remote presentation, the strength of your presence must make up for the limitations of the tools you use. As leaders, we give different kinds of presentations. Some presentations are strategic, client proposals, keynotes, leadership missions. We invest hours or even days and months to get them just right, rehearsing them until we can do them in our sleep, flying to client locations so we can give those presentations in person. But most of our presentations are tactical presentations, like the project updates that we squeeze into the cracks of an already busy day. Think about the remote presentations you watched. What was good about them? On the other hand, where did they fail? You've probably listened to presentations where the speaker rushed through the material and ran out of time for questions. You might have tuned out of presentations where the speaker read the slides in a monotone or put too much information on each slide. You've probably struggled with technical issues, web conferences, and phone lines that don't work. And maybe you've attended a few presentations where the speaker kept you interested and engaged throughout the presentation, where the ideas were clear and well communicated, and where the discussion left you not only informed, but also energized. What's stopping you from being that engaging and effective speaker? I find that there are typically three reasons: lack of inspiration, lack of interest, or lack of time. For some people, it's not knowing what's possible. A great way to find role models and mentors is to ask other people to recommend presentations and speakers they liked, and drawing inspiration from those. For some people, it's thinking that no one could possibly be interested in their topic. If you're a manager reporting utilization rates, you might not even find your own topic interesting. Find out why what you're saying matters. Show people the big picture or skip the presentation entirely. Make handouts or email it instead. For most of us, it's that we're just too busy to plan and deliver great presentations. But investing time in understanding and communicating your key message, the core of a great presentation, that'll help you not only communicate more effectively, but lead more effectively too. The 7 tips that I'd like to share with you today are a mix of quick wins that'll help you make a stronger connection during your remote presentation, as well as deeper tips to help you maximize your effect. Today you'll learn more about making it real, interacting, making space for learning. You'll see how practicing will help you do more than just give presentations. You'll learn more about keeping it simple, starting and ending strong, and continuing that conversation. And as you gain more experience giving remote presentations, you'll be able to make a stronger connection in today's globally integrated world. First, make it real. The most important step that you can take is to pretend that your remote presentation is just as real and just as important as your face-to-face presentations. This is difficult when you can't make eye contact, and it's almost impossible when your neck is starting to ache because of the way you're holding your phone, or you're doing this in the middle of a very busy day. So pretend that you're face-to-face. Dress up in your favorite suit if that'll help you build your confidence and present as if it were real. Get a headset so that it's easy for you to talk on the phone. People might not be able to see you, but they'll hear your confidence and your energy. If you're having a hard time pretending, here are a couple of tips. You can ask a coworker to come in and listen to you give your talk. You'll probably find that your presentation becomes much easier to give. If you're working from home or all of your coworkers are busy, you can use pictures of people as your pretend audience. Sometimes I've used stuffed toys as my stand-ins. And you can make it real for people listening to you too. Why should they listen instead of just reading through your slides? Make your presentation a real performance. Smile and use the hand gestures that you would use to get your point across. Webcams are inexpensive, and they can really help people feel as if you're right there talking to them. Make it real. What's one thing that could make your virtual presentation almost as real as being there in person? Interaction. So that brings us to tip number 2. Interact. Don't rush through what you have to say without finding out what people think. People tune out when what you're saying isn't relevant to them, and they know that they don't need to pay attention. They mentally check out. They start reading mail or responding to instant messages. And once you lose people, it's really hard to get them back. There are 3 big reasons why you should listen to people during your presentation. First, you can create a lot more value. If you don't take questions, you might as well just record your presentation and share it, or send around a copy of your slides and notes so people can read it. Is what you're talking about relevant to people? Does anything need to be explained further? The main reason why people are listening to you is so that you can listen to them and answer their questions. The second benefit of interaction is that you can keep people's attention. Mix it up, add variety. Third, and this is incredibly powerful, listening to people during your presentation will teach you a lot. People are learning from you, but you can learn from them too. You can learn from the ideas that they share, the questions they ask, and the stories, examples, and answers that you think of as you address their questions. And there are all sorts of great ways that you can get feedback from people who are attending a web conference. The Illuminate system lets people raise their hands, add a check to their name, answer multiple choice polls, indicate A, B, C, D, or E, add text to a shared whiteboard, or share their thoughts in a text chat. Even if you only have a phone line, you can pause for questions. Here's the difficult part. You need to become comfortable with waiting. 7 seconds is probably the minimum you should wait for a response. 7 seconds seems like a lifetime when you're giving a presentation, but people need time to think of their questions or think of their answers. Yes, it will feel awkward, but it's essential. In addition to building interaction into your presentation, you might also want to use a text chat to invite people to share their thoughts throughout the session. If you find it hard to keep track of the discussion, ask someone to watch the chat for you and to bring up anything you should know about. Interaction is great, but you already don't have enough time for everything in your agenda. So how are you going to find time for question and answer? That brings us to tip number 3, which is make space for learning. You need to make time for that interaction. You can't just squeeze the question and answers portion into the last few minutes of a presentation that has already run over time. Ruthlessly edit your presentation until you can find the core of your message. If your session is scheduled for an hour, try to say what you need to say in 20 minutes, or even 7. Save the details for question and answer, a follow-up note or blog post, or handouts. One pattern that works pretty well is to say your core message and then save the rest of the session for Q&A. If people are using a text chat to ask questions while you're doing your presentation, you can even weave those questions and your answers into your short presentation. Get your key message across and then get out of the way. How do you find that key message? And that brings us to tip number 4. Practice, practice, practice. Practice thinking about your topic. Practice talking about your topic. Practice writing about your topic. And as you repeat yourself, you'll find that the most important points float to the top. Listen as you explain what you want to say, and you'll figure out some great ways of communicating it. I write a lot about topics I'm passionate about, like social networking, presentation skills. I write again and again on the same topic, and every time I write or talk about it, I learn something new. I get a little better at explaining what I think. I come across new ideas too, so practice helps. Practice with your tools too, of course. If you're trying a new interactive technique, experiment with it before using it with a large audience. And always have backup plans. Be ready to skip parts that don't work and tools that are having problems. Your live demo will probably fail at the worst time, so have a backup plan. And work hard at practicing so that your actual performance looks effortless. Practice is easier when there's less to practice. So, tip number 5, keep it simple. Practice and edit. practice and edit until you can get to a clear, memorable key message. Make it something that you can keep in your head and talk about, even if no one can see your slides. Memory aids help you organize what you want to say, and they help people remember too. Here's an example from goal setting. If you're talking about goals, you can share all sorts of things that people should do in order to set better goals. Or you can talk about setting SMART goals: specific, measurable, ardently desired, realistic, and time-bound. The key word SMART makes it easy for people to remember your points afterwards, and this is an example of a memory device that makes it easier for you and your listeners. Keep your slides simple too. Instead of using fancy effects like transitions or animations or putting lots of text, just put your key messages and visual aids on the slide. That way, people can focus on what you're saying instead of on reading the slides. Tip number 6. Start strong and end strong. What are people going to remember about your talk? Based on the way that our memory works, they'll probably remember the beginning and the end. Make the most of those minutes. Every minute counts, and every slide counts. Imagine this. You could spend 10 minutes on the slow start, waiting for everyone to dial in, thanking the people for attending, and then reading your agenda off your slides. Or you can use the time to warm up your audience. You get to know some of the attendees. Find out why they're there. Find out what they're interested in. Share the key point or the executive summary of your presentation, and then hit the ground running. Most of the time, it's a good idea to cut the suspense and put your main point first, so people who hang up halfway through the call still know what you're trying to say. So start strong. End strong too. Here's a quick fix to make your next question and answer session even better. Instead of showing a slide that says, "Thank you," or "Questions?" post a one-slide summary with your contact information and a link to where people can find out more. That way, you help people remember what they wanted to ask questions about, you help them learn more, and you give them clear actions to take next. The most important question for a presentation is, what's next? What do you want people to do after listening to you? What do you want them to learn or remember? Your presentation isn't the end of the conversation, it's just the beginning. So tip number 7, continue the conversation. Make it easy for people to download your slides, your notes, your recordings, so they can review your presentation and share it with others. If you share it yourself, then other people can come across the presentation in search results and blog posts. Invite people to share their comments, their reactions, their questions. Show people what their next steps are and help them take those steps. You've already done the hard work of making and giving the presentation, so you might as well make the most of it. And you can reach out even before your presentation too. I started this presentation as an idea. I wrote a blog post. People commented. I made a presentation and then a longer blog post, and at every step of the way, people shared their thoughts and helped me make it better. The presentation had been viewed more than 1,000 times even before I delivered it at the conference. It's part of a bigger conversation that's going on out there. Be part of that conversation. Make your presentation matter. I hope you're now ready to make it real, to interact, to make space for learning. You'll go out there and practice, simplifying your message until you can start and end strong. You'll build and join conversations around your presentations, and you'll be ready to lead through the remote presentations that you make.